Welcome back to DK Sports Radio. This is Chris Carter, and you're listening to Don't Get Me Started. Don't get me started about Patriots fans and their nonsense about why things don't matter that the media publish about their team. Now, this could go back to 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when they were reporting Spygate and all the other problems, and Patriots fans tonight, it's not true, they're out to get us. And that happened again earlier this season. Before the playoffs, when the Patriots saw a report on ESPN about there being a rift in the organization between its three keyest members, those being Tom Brady, the all-star quarterback, Bill Belichick, the super genius coach, and Bob Kraft, the owner. And supposedly in the report, it talked about, well, not supposedly in the report, supposedly said that the three of them were in a sort of battle of power of sorts, who was more responsible for their dynasty. The team had won 5 Super Bowls with those three intact. Now, granted, dynasty, it depends on what you define as a dynasty, because as it used to mean when they talked about football teams, it talked about a nucleus being kept together on the team, 8, 10, 11, 12, 20 players that stuck together over a span of time. And that you could point to and say those guys won X amount of Super Bowls in, X amount of years. But really the only person in this situation is Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and then the owner. But either way, that three have combined for more than any coach, owner, and quarterback have in the history of the NFL when it comes to the Super Bowl era. All that being said, the article alleged several things about that that Kraft had splits with Belichick. And the Jimmy Garoppolo trade was to spite Bill Belichick and was to protect Tom Brady. And that Bill Belichick did not want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo because he saw him as the future. But that was brushed aside. Everyone said this is nonsense. There's nothing to support this. This is just conjecture by ESPN, who's always out to get the Patriots. Yeah, but it seems like that's what it always is. Deflategate, they're out to get the Patriots. Spygate, they're out to get the Patriots. Just every little thing that comes out. At first, before it was confirmed, people said that the Aaron Hernandez reports were out to get the Patriots. Then the evidence came forth that, okay, they had to back off that one. But when it comes to this situation, people said, it was across the media. Once this report came out, at first, people acknowledged it, but then it was largely brushed aside. They wouldn't have this problem. This is just everyone's against New England. And that wasn't the case. This guy had sources that said that these people were in a rift and there was problems there. And this one of the biggest signs was the Garoppolo trade. Well, since the Super Bowl, there have been some more rifts now that the team has had their first loss, and it was in their biggest game of the season since that report came out. And that was in the Super Bowl when they lost to the Eagles 41-33. Now, several things came from this. One, there was the decision of Bill Belichick, which he said was a coaching decision, not a disciplinary decision, but a coaching decision to not play him with the first team defense. Malcolm Butler had seen about 97% of all defensive snaps throughout the year and was arguably their most important defender that was playing this season. You could argue Devin McCourty, some say Stephon Gilmore, you can go back and forth about some players, but Malcolm Butler was absolutely instrumental in that defense's success. Then it comes out he's benched, and they put in Eric Rowe outside the numbers, and they put in a fourth-string corner in the slot, and the Eagles absolutely carve up the New England secondary. Now, yes, New England was 29th in yards allowed all season, but they were also 5th in points allowed, and they gave up 41 points. That is not the typical defense that they had played all year. Now, Matt Patricia, their defensive coordinator, pretty much had a job in the bag and was telling all the Lions coaches that they can hit the road because when he gets to town in Detroit, he's going to be making his own staff up. On the other side of the ball, Josh McDaniels was gone. But we'll get to Josh McDaniels in a second because that's another thing that's crazy about this. But let's look at Malcolm Butler being benched. Brandon Browner, a former Patriot, came out and said that this was This was a foolish pride moment for Bill Belichick, thinking that he can just place whoever he wants on the field and get success from them. Now, to Bill Belichick's credit, that's been his legacy. I mean, Malcolm Butler himself was an undrafted player that became a Super Bowl hero and a superstar corner. He was second-team All-Pro not too long ago in the NFL, and he was looking very good. And he's looked very good for this defense. That's why he's got a team. That's why he's been on the team. That's why he's been getting all these starts. And not as well put on the radar. Everyone talks about the Steelers' contracts concerns or the Panthers when they have a guy they're not sure to sign. Or most major teams, when they have a player that's been a hero for them and there's some contracts disputes, there's significant talk about should they pay them, should they not pay them. Well, Malcolm Butler's in a contract year, and he's in a position where he's been saying, I deserve to get paid. Well, Bill Belichick historically has not liked it when someone has said that. So, Bill Belichick benches Malcolm Butler. The Patriots defense gets completely ripped apart by a backup quarterback named Nick Foles in what could have been the organization's shining moment to get a 6th Super Bowl and tie the Pittsburgh Steelers. They did not. And when it comes to that decision, you have to look at it, would Malcolm Butler have made a difference? Maybe, probably. Simply because you'd think that Eric Rowe had been the third option at cornerback for most of the season. He's the guy that they could ask to put all over the field and have some success. But he had to go outside the numbers, and that's not where his strength is. He's really not that good of a corner in the first place. He's decent, but he's a role player, but he's not the guy that you would expect. And ask the Eagles because they had him first and they let him go. So, this whole thing happens. Malcolm Butler, gets benched. He says, it is what it is. F it. He cursed and all that. And he wasn't too open to about the thing. But then a report surfaces from Twitter and from social media saying from a random guy who I've never heard before on Twitter says that and this is after the game. Now, Bill Belichick and the Patriots say it was a coaching decision to bench Malcolm Butler. But all of a sudden, this report comes out and says, I have a friend whose brother works or brother-in-law or something like that, works in the Minneapolis Police Department, and they said that they saw Malcolm Butler with women late after curfew, drinking and smoking marijuana and getting high and completely disregarding everything. And he missed the team playing. Well, everyone knew he missed the team playing already because he had the flu, just like many of the Eagles players had the flu that week. So that's not really a surprise. What is a surprise is that this report has not been substantiated by anything other than rumors. And major media sources have been pushing it. It's been on Fox, it's been on CBS, it's been on NFL Network, it's been on ESPN that, Malcolm Butler did these things, but the Patriots haven't reported as much. Maybe they will sometime soon, but at this point, as I'm speaking on this, they have not. So all this does is try to mask give Bill Belichick an out as far as why he did this. But let's get into the rift part, because this is where it starts to get funky. Because after that, now apparently Brandon Browner, who has a relationship, he's a former Patriot cornerback. He has a relationship with several players on the team still, and he said that from that decision, the locker room was divided. Now, dividing the locker room before the Super Bowl, Eric Rowe, Malcolm Butler's backup who replaced him, had no idea that he was going to be starting in this game and playing as much as he did. He thought he'd get some more playing time because of the way that he practiced that week. But Bill Belichick, benched their star cornerback, and that led to that. Then afterwards, Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, who was Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, was supposed to go to Indianapolis and become their head coach with Andrew Luck and their youth, and they have Jacoby Brissett over there, and he thought maybe that'll be so. Well, then all of a sudden, a few days after the Super Bowl, he's not going to Indianapolis. He turns that down. And he's going back to New England. Now everyone's talking about, well, what's this? Wait a second. I thought he was going. Why is he staying? Is he coming back to take Bill's job in a few years? And now all these questions are arising. Why would Josh McDaniels back out of a head coaching position unless he was promised that he would be the guy after Belichick? And there's been absolutely no talk about Bill Belichick retiring other than he might retire when Tom Brady retires. But now we're getting into this question is, well, okay, wait a minute. If Bill Belichick has always had the say of who he keeps and who he sends away. So now you're telling me that Josh McDaniels is coming back for something like that? Maybe there is something to this riff stuff, but not if you're a Patriots fan. No, that's nothing. This is just made up stuff. This is just, the team is perfectly fine. Nothing's wrong with it. You're just being a hater. They hate us because they ain't us, unless they're the Eagles because they beat them. But my point in all of this is that don't believe the hype against the hype when it comes to Patriots information that comes out against the Patriots. So many times have we heard real hard evidence that something they did was real, and it's been dispelled. For all the nonsense about Deflategate, and they said that, balls get naturally deflate over time, and their math was wrong, and all this other stuff. They always overlooked the fact that the equipment managers that were involved in this situation admitted that they were deflating footballs via text message. They were caught on record, and those same people were caught taking the footballs from their designated area where the NFL had them into a private room for a certain amount of time and then coming back out and placing them somewhere. So and they always skip over that. They also skip over the fact that the person who was doing it threatened to another member in the organization that he would snitch to ESPN unless he got certain items with and memorabilia that Tom signed. And then all of a sudden, there is camera footage of him getting those items. But they don't talk about that. No, let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the math and why it's impossible. No. We have hard proof, a confession here, and we want to overlook that. Just like Spygate, you'll hear. I've seen still on my Twitter timeline. I posted a GIF of Brandon Cooks dropping a pass that was called a touchdown months ago. It's the night of this when the Steelers lost to the Patriots and the Jesse James call was up for discussion and all that. And I just posted it to start conversation. There are still Patriots fans in that thread saying that we're not cheaters. Anyone that says we are is just a loser and a hater that doesn't like us. And said you don't even know, and saying Spygate wasn't illegal, and of course it was. That's why you were fined, and you should have been fined more. You should have, when the NFL came after the Saints for Bountygate, they ripped their whole team apart. Their head coach couldn't talk to a single player on their team for over a year. They had several key players removed from their team for several years. They took apart what could have been the Saints' run at a second title, maybe a third. That busted up that team's entire chemistry, and it's taken years for that organization to get back to what it was. But not the Patriots, not when they've been involved in multiple cheating scandals. And when it comes to Patriots fans and don't talk about my organization, they say brush this aside. Well, this report about there being a rift in the organization, I too was sitting there like, let me see something other than the Garoppolo trade that could support it. But I wasn't dispelling it. I was just saying I'm gonna hold this off. I'm gonna hold this off right now. But here comes some more information that supports this notion. So I'm saying to you, if you're a Steelers fan or just an NFL fan, or if you're a Patriots fan, next time you hear something about the Patriots, don't brush it aside. Don't be one of those ridiculous fans that say, this is nothing. ESPN's out to get these. No. If people were out to get the Patriots, they would have been got because the evidence is there. Tom Brady could have been suspended for an entire year, as could have Bill Belichick for either of the cheating scandals. Well, Tom Brady not for Spygate because that wasn't necessarily him. But my point is, if people wanted to tear down the Patriots, it wouldn't be that hard. But all that said, they're here, and no one's saying that they're not great at what they do. Tom Brady's the best quarterback that I've seen. He's one of the best. He's probably the best processor of what defenses are doing that I've seen in the NFL. And I give credit to him, and I've done that on Paul Zeiss's radio show on 93.7 The Fan. I've done that on DK Pittsburgh Sports. I've done that, on WPXI here in Pittsburgh on the Final Word. I've said several times of my admiration for how Tom Brady reads and processes defenses and does what he does. All that being said, I can take myself back from that and say, but these things don't add up, and that's all I'm saying. Use your common sense. But y'all got me started here on this fine week. So don't go away. We got a lot coming for you. Chris Carter signing off.